guys, welcome back to Beer Geek Nation. I'm your host Chris Stelz. Thanks for joining me once again. Tonight we've got kind of a special limited edition release beer. It is from Founders Brewing. I get a lot of requests for those. You guys on the West Coast just can't get them, and I think it drives you a little bit nuts. Don't worry, the feeling's mutual about some other breweries you have out there. But anyway, this is their Old Curmudgeon Ale. It just got released maybe last week. It's considered an old ale. Which is kind of a very generic, well, it's turned into a very generic term. It's basically what a barley wine used to be before people started hopping the hell out of barley wines. And now it's just kind of a generic, really high gravity, high alcohol, just huge amounts of malts. Some can be aged in oak, aged in different barrels, whatever. That's kind of what an old ale has become. And it's kind of a resurging, resurging style. And this one from Founders is actually brewed with molasses and then aged in oak. So it's another really high alcohol beer aged on oak from Founders. Comes in at 9.8%, 50 IBUs. So it's got a decent amount of bitterness there too. So with that said, let me get into a glass, let you know how it tastes, how it smells, and I'll give you the verdict. So as you can see in the pour, this pour is actually, the appearance on this one's actually pretty surprising. It's almost like a light red, like a dark kind of light brown, darkish brown, really dark, like burnt orange maybe. Definitely some red characteristics there. Very little head, and I would assume that's from the aging in the oak barrels. Just kind of the carbonation does go down, but the head that was there is kind of like an off-white, off-yellow. It's pretty typical, about one finger's worth. There is, lots of haze in it. It's not, not super hazy. There's a little bit of clarity in it. Very little carbonation. A little bit coming off the bottom of the glass, but not too much. Not a lot worth mentioning. So the aroma on Old Curmudgeon. Let me give it a smell here. Yeah, it's about what I figured. Yeah. Tons and tons and tons of malt. No hop characteristics whatsoever. Founders, they can go one way or the other. They can hit the hops out of the park, or they can hit the malt out of the park. This one is probably one of the most malty beers I've ever smelled. It's got that dark bread fruit, that really Belgian kind of quadruple smell to it. I'm getting a little bit of the oak. And when I say that, you get a bit of like a fruitiness to it, a bit of vanilla, very slightly. It's not like KBS or anything like that. There is some definite oak characters in this one, though. Yeah, it's just, oh god, it's just it's unbelievable. I mean, you really have to get a bottle to smell how malty it actually is. It's hard to describe in words. I mean, it's just phenomenal. That, first thing that comes to mind, it's not a beginner's beer. And I say that, with all due respect to anyone who's new to the craft beer scene. Don't try this as your first Founders beer. It is just mind-numbingly complex. Pardon me, wow. It is so malty. Literally, like it's just like taking raisin bread, crunching like 15 pieces up and just shoving in your mouth. There is so much malt in this. It's like a rum-soaked raisin almost. It's really hard to describe. I've never had a beer, honestly, quite like it. It just fills your mouth. I mean, if you want a beer with body, and if you ever get a beer that says, has big body or something, this defines big body. Just coat your mouth. Just literally coat your mouth with malt and sweetness, and just it's the alcohol content. You can definitely taste that, the irony behind it is that it all blends so perfectly together, and I'm sure that's come from aging in the oak barrels. It just kind of turns everything down from 10, the 10 volume down to like 8 or 7. It just works so well. It's a tough beer. I'm not gonna lie to you. It is a commitment to a beer. Like I couldn't just sit here and pound this. It's definitely a sipper, but it's one of the it is the maltiest beer I've ever had in my entire life. So if you ever want to taste a malty beer, what does it taste like? There you go. So the verdict on Founder's Old Curmudgeon, it's available now. It's a very limited release, 9.8% alcohol, 50 IBUs. I'm a little torn. Personally, like if any of my opinion has anything to do with anything, I'm going to give it an A. But with that said, I think in the big picture of things, I think with craft beer drinkers, kind of trying different things, I'm going to give this one a B. And the reason I'm going to do that is because it is such a complex beer. I think it's kind of a beer you kind of have to build up to, and you might want to get it, like 2 or 3 of them, store them down in your basement for maybe a year. I think it's going to be a completely different beer. A lot of the molasses characters are not quite defined in this. You definitely get some of that smoothness. But I think after about 6 months to a year, those molasses characters, that dark kind of fruitiness of it, are really going to come out. But with that said, it is another just excellent beer from Founders. It's nothing like anything else they make, and that's what makes Founders so good. Is every style they do, they make it their own, and they're just so good at it. And my hat is off to them. I've yet to have a bad Founders beer, and there's not too many breweries I can say that about. So I'm going to give it a B, but I do that with hesitation and an asterisk. If you are an experienced craft drinker and you really want to try something, like I consider this is an extreme beer, if you ask me. So definitely try this if you want a new experience. So yeah, again, this is Founders Curmudgeon Old Ale, available now. Get it while you can. Store a couple bottles away. I think you'll really appreciate it. So until next time, life's too short. Drink amazing beers, my friends. Cheers.